As you read that, welcome back to the BBN Report, where we talk all things college football and basketball. And first things first, as you read the title of this video, I want to congratulate the Georgia Bulldogs on being your 2022 college football national champions. The Georgia Bulldogs really got a few monkeys off their back. They finally were able to beat Darth Saban himself in Alabama, snapping their 7-game losing streak to the Crimson Tide. And not to mention, Kirby Smart became the second former assistant coach to beat Nick Saban. And ironically, happens twice in 1 year, when Jimbo Fisher beat Saban earlier this year in Alabama, and now Kirby Smart. And another monkey that Georgia got off their back is the 1980 kind of troll comment that a lot of Georgia fans have had to deal with for a long time now. So there isn't going to be any more 1980 troll comments towards Georgia fans now. Now, personally, I was actually pretty happy to see Georgia win. I really thought they were the better team heading into last night's game. And I was actually really pulling for Georgia to bring home the national championship. And I am in no way, shape, or form an Alabama hater or a Nick Saban hater. I'm actually a pretty big Nick Saban fan myself. And I've actually quite enjoyed watching Alabama over the years with Nick Saban as the head coach. But that being said, I was rooting for Georgia to bring home the national title last night, and they did. It was just something that I really thought that their fans really deserved. And it's been such a long time, like I said, since 1980, since Georgia won the national championship. And they've been so close on a number of occasions, and they've let a lot of very important games over the years that they needed to win slip away, including their last national title game appearance in, was it 2017 or 2018, one of the two, where they lost to Alabama on a 2nd and 26. If I remember right, that game was in overtime, if I remember right. But yeah, 2nd and 26, Tua Tagovailoa ends up throwing a just perfect pass, and Alabama ends up walking off with the national championship that year. Last night, Georgia managed to do something that I don't think we'll see very often going forward. And it's winning a national championship with a game manager quarterback that is Stetson Bennett. He's just, those kind of quarterbacks are just a dying breed. And if you want to be able to win a national championship, you have to have a quarterback, ironically, like on the other side for Alabama, Bryce Young, who can throw for 4,500 yards. And that's just where we are kind of at in today's college football. If you don't have a quarterback that can throw for 4,000 to 5,000 yards in a season, you really just don't have much of a chance to win a national championship. So that's one thing Georgia did manage to do this season, was have a quarterback who's just not very good in Stetson Bennett. He's just, I should say he's not very good. He's just a mediocre quarterback. He's nothing special. He's not going to go on to play the next level. I mean, he's a former walk-on that managed to get a roster spot at Georgia. And this really was a tale of two halves for Georgia. The first half, their defense did play really, really well, I thought. Obviously, their defense played really well in both halves. But in the first half, the offense really didn't move the ball a whole lot. You know, they really shot themselves in the foot a lot as well in the first half. A lot of false start penalties, a lot of just holding, and a lot of penalties that really got Georgia behind the sticks a little bit. It really caused their offense to really stutter out. One of the best plays of the first half was arguably Stetson Bennett's best throw of the night, when he had a 52-yard completion to Pickett. And if I remember right, Georgia ended up backing themselves up, ironically, in that one as well, and ended up having to settle for a field goal. That offense is once again stuttered out there. But when Georgia went into halftime, you know, and before this, I want to say that Georgia wasn't doing a very good job at establishing the run in the first half. And if I was saying beforehand that if Georgia was going to win this game, that they were going to have to establish the run, and they're going to have to get 3+ yards on first down rushing the ball. That way Stetson Bennett can actually be the kind of quarterback that Stetson Bennett is, and that is essentially a game-managing quarterback that you're really not going to see him throw for more than 15, 20 yards at any given time. It's just not the kind of quarterback Stetson Bennett is. And that was one thing that Georgia was really failing to do in the first half, was really establish the run. And they were getting really down in distance. You know, they were having a lot of 2nd and 15s, and they were behind the sticks a lot in the first half. And that just wasn't going to get it done for Georgia, especially with a guy like Stetson Bennett at quarterback, who just isn't that kind of guy who's going to be able to get you those kind of yards back unless you have a big run to get back into that particular set of downs. But yeah, I do think going into halftime, I did think Georgia had to feel pretty good about themselves, especially considering the way that Georgia played in the SEC championship game in Atlanta last month. And they definitely had a little chip on their shoulder going into this game after where they were embarrassed. And I really thought they wanted to redeem themselves. You know, and ironically, in case you didn't know this is actually the 5th rematch, you know, in college football that's happened recently. I think I've read it's like the 5th rematch all time in like the FBS. In all previous 4 times that teams in the FBS have rematched each other, the team who lost the first time around actually ended up winning the second time around. And as we all know, Georgia would go on to win this game, making the rematches be 5-0 for the team who lost the previous matchup. But yeah, going into the second half, Georgia did a lot better job at establishing the run. And another thing that they really did well that they didn't do in the first game, they weren't allowing a lot of separation between receivers and the defense. That was one thing in the first meeting with these teams. Georgia played a lot of zone, and Bryce Young really picked that zone apart like a hot knife through butter. And Georgia's defense really stood stout last night. And they did something as well that they weren't able to do in the first game. They really put a lot of pressure on Bryce Young. They really got back there. I think they still only sacked him 1 time. They may have sacked him twice, but I can remember the 1 time. And they really got a lot of pressure on him all night, and that really forced a lot of bad throws from Bryce Young. And I've said it all season long that I personally don't think Bryce Young is that great of a quarterback under pressure. Now, obviously, the guy is a tremendous talent, but I do think that when you get pressure on Bryce Young, he rushes throws, he's just nowhere near as accurate. He just doesn't like when he's under pressure, and I think a lot of things like last night's game really shown that. But yeah, in the second half, Georgia came out and they really was able to establish the run. And they won both lines of scrimmage very convincingly in the second half. And everybody knows you win the line of scrimmage in football, you're more likely going to win games more often than you're going to lose them games. But they came out, they really dominated on both sides of the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, if I could talk here. Now, there was quite a few times that last night I really thought that Stetson Bennett was going to be the reason that Georgia did not win that game. Now, for the most part, Stetson Bennett played like hot garbage for the most part. I'm sure he had the one great throw to Pickett there in the first half. And then most of this, he overthrew receivers a lot. They didn't really put him in the greatest positions to be successful as an entire team and a coaching staff, and committing penalties that got him backed up. But even in the second half, he didn't really ever look that great. At least in my opinion, I didn't think he played well for the most part. But he did have, like I said, the one throw there. Then the one drive there, a great redemption drive for Stetson Bennett. After Alabama just scored a touchdown to take the lead back from Georgia. He ends up 3 plays, 3 passes, 68 yards. Those 3 plays there were huge for Georgia, and ended up capping that off with a touchdown. So that was something that really got Georgia back on top, and it was a huge momentum builder for the rest of that game. Now, of course, on the next to last offensive possession for Alabama, when Georgia would get an interception and take it to the house, whoever would have thought that going into that game last night that Bryce Young would throw more interceptions than Stetson Bennett? If you'd have told me going into that game that Bryce Young was going to throw more picks than Stetson Bennett, I would have told you were full of crap, because going into last night, I believe Bryce Young had only thrown 4 interceptions on the entire season. And for him to throw 2 last night was huge for Georgia. And they were able to take one of those and take it to the house. And in my opinion, I think Georgia was robbed early in the night when Bryce Young, in my opinion, fumbled the ball and Georgia took it back for a scoop and score. I think that was a fumble. I don't think Bryce Young's arm was going forward. His arm was only going forward because he got hit. You have to wonder if this game does go a little bit differently if Jameson Williams doesn't get hurt for Alabama. When Jameson Williams got hurt, that really took away a lot of the things that Alabama was trying to do offensively. That Jameson Williams, that guy is an elite wide receiver. He's one of the best wide receivers in the country. And it's kind of ironic how he really couldn't get on the field at Ohio State, but goes down to Alabama as the immediate starter and one of the best in the country. And he got hurt last night, and I really hope everything's okay. I didn't see any news release on that. At least I also didn't really look for it either, but hopefully it's nothing too serious and he can get back. And you always hate to see players get hurt no matter who your team is. Injuries are a part of the game, unfortunately, but like I said, it's always tough, especially when it doesn't matter if it's one of the worst guys on the team or one of the best guys on the team. Injuries suck no matter who they are. And I definitely would have liked to have seen Jameson Williams out there for the entire game last night, but unfortunately we did not have that. But I do think him going down really changed what Alabama was going to do offensively. And it really helped the Georgia defense. That being said, that I really do think that Bryce Young should hand his Heisman off to Jameson Williams, because the 2 games that Williams has missed this year, Bryce Young has been hot doo-doo for the most part. You know, he was terrible against Auburn. You know, Williams did not play at all in that game, and then Bryce Young looked really, really good in last night's game until Williams got hurt. And then we saw the Auburn game, Bryce Young, and it's not a very good Bryce Young. He's basically one of the reasons made Bryce Young have as great as a season as he's had this year. And I really do think that Bryce Young should hand off his Heisman to his teammate Jameson Williams as a thank you for getting me this Heisman. But all is not lost for Alabama. I thought for the most part Alabama played really well last night. I think it was actually one of the most competitive and one of the best national championship games we've seen in a long time. Definitely the best championship game since the Alabama-Clemson championship game of a few years back, when Deshaun Watson led Clemson down in the last minute to get a touchdown to seal it for Clemson. After Alabama just took the lead back in that game, that was one of the best national championship games you'll ever watch. But like I said, we had a really great game last night, and that's what somebody like me who didn't have a dog in the fight was really hoping for. I always get upset when we get these blowout national title games, so I was really happy to see us get a great, close game. And, you know, of course, the interception at the end makes it look a little bit more lopsided than it actually was. But on the bright side for Alabama, they are losing some pretty good players this offseason, but they are bringing back guys like Bryce Young, for instance. You know, that guy is going to continue to be a stud next year and beyond, and potentially maybe even at the next level. But we already know what Alabama's going to do. They're probably going to win the national championship next year, because this team for Alabama is going to be absolutely loaded next season without a doubt. You know, that's really just what Nick Saban does. You know, Alabama pretty much wins the national championship every other year. Now, I haven't seen any odds released yet, but I guarantee you they're going to be the favorites to win the national championship next year. And I think they probably will win the national championship next year. So it's not like this is the end of a dynasty for the Alabama Crimson Tide and Nick Saban. I've actually seen quite a few people saying that, and I think it's pretty laughable, honestly. If you really think that last night's game is the end of an era for Alabama, you're probably completely clueless about college football. Maybe tuned in for the first time last night, because Alabama's going to continue to be in a dynasty and being one of the best teams in college football all the way until Nick Saban retires. And I don't think that's ever going to change until the Emperor himself decides to relinquish the reins on the college football world. But yeah, like I said, I'm happy that Georgia finally got a national championship. Like I said earlier, I think their fans really deserve that national championship. They've had to deal with a lot. They've had to deal with a lot of trolls over the years with the 1980 comments. So it's definitely nice that they can finally get that monkey off their back. They can finally snap that losing streak to Alabama. And that they can finally celebrate a national championship, because Georgia is a great football program. And it's nice that they can finally celebrate a national championship once again. But hey, tell me, and leave me a comment down below. And tell me what you thought of last night's game. Did you think that Alabama was going to win? Did you think Georgia was going to win? What actually surprised you most about last night's game? And I'll go ahead and I'll catch you guys in the next one.